Hi, welcome to another session of the greatest all-time study about spiritual gifts in the history of humanity. And we're talking about your gifts and what they mean and how they work. We've learned so far that the spiritual gifts are spiritual. They help us fulfill the mission of Christ. We've also learned that they're gifts. And so like our salvation, there's nothing that we can do to earn these gifts. They're given to us by God as He sees fit out of the generosity of His heart. But today we're going to get at least the first piece of the puzzle that I know that people want to know. This is where the nitty-gritty study begins. They want to know what the purpose of the gifts are and why has God chosen to empower us with supernatural power. In Ephesians chapter 4, it says this in verse 11 through 16. And He Himself gave some to be apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors and teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry, to build up the body of Christ until we all reach unity in the faith and the knowledge of God's Son, growing into a maturity with stature measured by Christ's fullness. Then we will no longer be little children, tossed by the waves and blown around by every word, every wind of teaching, but human cunning with cleverness in the teachings of deceit. But speaking the truth in love, let us grow in every way into Him who is the head, Christ. From Him the whole body, fitted and knit together by every supporting ligament, promotes the growth of the body for building itself up in love and the proper working of each individual part. Notice that in that passage, and you can go back and read Ephesians 4 for yourself, the purposes of spiritual gifts are given in those verses. They are for, review here, 1, equipping people for God's work and mission. 2, sanctification, the growing of our faith. And sometimes we don't always see the value in that. When someone says to me, Pastor, I want to grow deeper in my faith, one of the questions I will often ask back to them is, do you know what your spiritual gifts are? Well, no, I'm not interested in that. I just want to grow my faith deeper. But that is one of the ways that your faith grows. They're also for unity in the faith. When people are following the Spirit of God and being led by the Spirit of God, there is a unity. And then also it mentions spiritual maturity. You show me a spiritually mature believer, I'll show you a believer that knows, understands, and is using their gifts. If you want to show me an immature, a childish believer or follower, I'll show you someone who's trying to do things their way for their own personal reasons, who have no concept of what their gifts are and have no desire to use them. What they've got at that moment is a salvation ticket, and that's what they're in it for. See, this should shape the way that we approach our attitude towards spiritual gifts. We need to identify our own gifts, and we'll be talking about that in the sessions ahead, but we also need to help others identify their gifts. Because our gifts are not given for our glory, but for God's glory and for the good of others. We use our gift to serve others as we serve God. And so regardless of what gift God has placed within you, you've been given a gift by God to fulfill the mission of the church that you are a part of. Paul uses the images of body, and the whole body put together with every part has a purpose. That is the vision that God has for the church in this era of human history. And we live in a day and age where at no time has there been a greater need for the body to be healthy and work together to fulfill the purpose that God has placed us for. So gifts are important, and they have a purpose. And you can only fulfill your purpose when you start fleshing out your giftedness. And so this is the greatest all-time study about spiritual gifts in the history of humanity, and we're going to continue this in our next session. And so until then, ask God to help you discover your gifts if you don't know them. And if you do know what they are, ask God to help grow you so your gifts will become stronger. And He'll show you ways to use them in the world around you. I'll join you next time.